guys, how's it going? It's Brandon coming at you with a new video today. Today I'm going to be talking about how I started my very first business and how I was able to make roughly $13,000 in my first year as a kid. So I'm going to go over how I got the money to start that business, what business I actually started, and kind of how you can do it too and replicate it for yourself. So here's a little story. When I was about 12 years old, I started working for my mom in her insurance agency. And I wasn't doing any big task. It was just minuscule things like sorting through paper, shredding paper, which I absolutely hated, and doing other very small tasks. So I worked with her for about 6 or 7 months, not getting paid very much, but over the course of those months, I was able to save up about $1,700. So right after I stopped working with her and I decided I didn't want to shred papers anymore, I walked into a buddy of mine's house and I went into his garage. And in his garage was a stack of clothing that was basically all the way up to the ceiling in boxes. So, I didn't know what was in the boxes, so I asked him, I said, "What's in the boxes?" And he goes, "It's just clothes, it's just hats and jackets and shirts." And I was like, "Okay, well, what kind of brands?" And he's like, "Ed Hardy, Affliction, Von Dutch," and I knew all three of those brands. So immediately I was interested. So I asked him, I said, "How long have these been sitting here?" And he goes, "Well, they've been sitting here for, like a year and a half. I haven't really done anything with them." So I was like, "Well, are you going to do anything with them?" And he goes, "No, not really. They're just kind of taking up space." So being as that I made that $1,700 working for my mom, and I figured there's maybe a way for me to make money here, I asked him how much it would cost for me to buy all of the inventory that he had. So I was like, "Hey, would you like to clean out your garage?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Well, I've got a little money saved up from working with my mom. I'd like to know how much it would cost for me to buy all of your hats." So he goes, "You don't want the jackets?" And I said, "Well, they're just going to sit here." So he goes, "If you buy all of the hats, I'll throw in the shirts and the jackets." So I ended up negotiating with him, and I found that if I could pay him $20 per box, he had about 1,500 hats. Each box had 25 hats in it. So I don't know what that exactly breaks down to, but there was a hell of a lot of boxes. So I ended up figuring that I could pay him $20 a box. We negotiated, we agreed on that price, and that ended up being like 75 cents per hat. So we made the deal. I went to my bank, I took out all of the money with my mom, and I brought it back to his garage and paid him for every single hat that he had. I literally unloaded his entire garage. And like I said before, he told me that if I cleared out his garage with all the hats, he would throw in the shirts and the jackets. There's probably like 200 shirts and maybe like 150 jackets, which were both Ed Hardy. So we go, I get a friend of mine and my mom to come back to the garage, and we loaded up maybe 5 or 6 trips to get all of the boxes back to our townhouse. And after unloading all the boxes, I'm just staring at this huge, freaking pyramid of clothes and boxes. And I was like, what the heck am I going to do with this? So I call my dad, and I'm like, "Hey Dad, I know you've been doing eBay for quite a long time. I just bought a crap load of, shirts, hats, and jackets, and I have absolutely no idea what to do with them." So he goes, "Well, I've been selling on eBay. Why don't you try to do the same?" So that first day I made an eBay account, and they only let me list like 5 items. So I listed 5 different hats, 5 different variants at somewhere between $10 and $14 per hat. The next day I sold 2 hats. So in that moment I realized that my profit margin was somewhere between 1,000 and 1,400%, which is absolutely phenomenal. So I start building a relationship with eBay. Those first 5 hats sold within the first few days. I was then able to list 15, and then 20, and then 30. If you know how eBay works, they give you higher limits based on how much you're selling and based off the feedback you're getting back from customers. So, I start listing tons of hats after a couple months. I'm listing like 40 hats at a time. They're all selling within a week. I call eBay. They say, "Wait till the end of the month. We'll increase your limits." So it got to the point where I could list about 150 hats at a time, getting, several hundred pieces of feedback. And everyone was really satisfied with the hats. So I knew I was doing a good job with the shipping. So, after turning all these hats, I had 1,500 hats to go through, give or take maybe like 50 or something like that. And, it took me a few years, but I sold all of the hats. But in the first year, I was able to sell a hell of a lot of the shirts and jackets and hats, and I made about $13,000. So I was just blown away because my initial investment on this purchase was $1,700. I literally gave this guy all of the money that I had saved up working for my mom. And I was able to turn that $1,700 into $13,000. So I was like, 13 when I started, maybe just turning 14 at this time when I sold my first good amount, and I was just in awe. I was like, wow, I have all of this money now that I literally spent nothing. Well, not nothing at that age, but minuscule in comparison to how much I made. So then I called my dad again and I said, you know, I still got some hats left, but I've made a good amount of profit. What should I do now? And he basically told me that I should find something that I'm good at, something that I'm also interested in selling on eBay, and kind of figure out the gaps in the market and how I can utilize used items to make money, buying from sellers that don't know how much their products are worth. So the first thing I fell into was watches, because I love watches. So I start buying and selling, you know, not high ticket watches, like Invictas, Citizens, Belovas, and watches that are kind of like that. So I start finding that a lot of the new watches with those models on them were like, you know, $200 to $500 to $1,000 for the higher price models. And I also found that those same models that were $200 to $500 could be found used for about $100 to $150. But there were some individuals who didn't know how to take the right kind of pictures and would list them bidding at like 60 to 70 bucks. So I was that guy that went in there, you know, they have horrible pictures, so they're not getting any bids. And I would filter by ending soonest. And I would bid on these watches in like the first in the last 2 minutes of the auction. So this watch that's potentially worth 150, 200 bucks, I'm buying for $60 used because they had horrible pictures and they didn't know how to make an attractive listing. So I'd buy the watch, it'd come in the mail, I would then take good pictures and resell it on eBay, and if I'm turning 60 into 150, that's a pretty good profit margin. So, you know, I'm still selling hats at this point, not as much because I really didn't like shipping out all of the low ticket items and only making, you know, although I had a high profit margin, I was only making about $9 to $14 a hat. With the watches, each time I sold a watch, I was making about $120, $150, $200 a watch, depending on the watch. So I liked making that larger, you know, that larger profit on each item. So I started gravitating more towards selling the watches, and then after selling watches for quite some time, I had saved up about $20,000. Then the fad really came in of everyone wearing the designer belts and the designer, you know, everything. Designer hats, designer jackets, designer shirts, and everything of that nature. So I started buying and selling Louis, Versace, Gucci belts, MCM shoes, Gucci jackets, Gucci shirts, and reselling them online. And I found that, you know, with those items, if I could buy the shoes for 150 bucks and resell them for $300 by taking nicer pictures and cleaning them up, I was making even more money than on the watches. So buying and selling became something that I really gravitated towards because you make so much money taking advantage of other people not knowing what their items are worth. So over the course of the years, I dove really deep into this, and I made a good amount of money. I made like my first $30,000 before I turned 17, and you know, I was able to really capitalize on it. So I want you guys to learn how to do this yourself. I'm going to be making another video on how to do this utilizing free items with no startup capital, and how to flip them on other reselling sites such as OfferUp and LetGo and marketplaces like that. You know, eBay is something where you can make a lot of money if you have startup capital, but these other marketplaces you can really take advantage of by selling items that other people are giving away for free on Craigslist and places like that. So that'll be my next video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. I very much appreciate it, as this is a new channel. If you enjoyed the video, also please subscribe. I'll leave the button right here. Hit that nice subscribe button. You're going to learn a lot from this channel. I hope to bring a lot of value to your guys' lives. I hope this message finds you in good health, and I hope you guys are all crushing it. If you're not crushing it, get off your ass and get to work. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. I appreciate the support. Peace out.